Kenosha, purple is horrible. Purple is the worst light pollution there can be. And then it goes to red, orange, yellow, green, blue. And blue, the yellow, green, and blue means there's not too much light pollution. And the orange, red, and purple means there's just way too much light pollution. Well, where I'm at right now, it's like in the reds and oranges. Where I checked where my land is, it's right on the edge of blue and white. And white means no light pollution at all. So it's the perfect trifecta of high elevation, the desert dry air, and no light pollution.
Hello, my friends. Welcome back to another episode of Land Stories Live. I have the pleasure of having Mr. Troy Davis here with me. Hey, Troy, how are you?
I'm doing fantastic. How are you?
I'm doing great, Troy. Well, you have been a customer of ours, picked up a property in Colorado. So I want to learn more about that. But before we get to that, I would love to know more about you. I know we were talking pre-chat. You're in Wisconsin. We're from Florida. Did you grow up in Florida originally, or where are you from?
I was born in Racine, Wisconsin. My parents got divorced when I was back in the early 80s, and a lot of my mother's family was in Florida. So after the divorce, my mom brought my brother and I to Florida back in 1984, and I've been there most of the time ever since.
Wow!
Until very recently. Yeah.
Life circles back around, and you're back in Wisconsin again.
Not for long though. I'll be in Colorado. The Lord willing, I'll be in Colorado. The sooner the better.
I love it. So Troy, growing up with your folks and whatnot, were you like a camper, or were you kind of like to get out, or none of those things? Were you more just kind of a staying at home kind of guy? Tell us more kind of about your background and growing up.
Well, my goodness, when I was younger, we did we went on a lot of vacations. When my parents were still married, we went on vacations pretty much every year. We went to Florida on vacations to visit my grandparents and my aunts and uncles in Florida, of course, back in the late 70s. Mid to late 70s, but we also went up to Wyoming, Colorado, and that wait, let me get it right. I don't like to tell lies. We went out there, I think one time we went to Yellowstone and in Wyoming, and we went down to Colorado for a little while. And we all just fell in love with it. At least my mom and I did. We both fell in love with the Rocky Mountains and the scenery and all that out there. And I've done a lot of camping. I've camped extensively. I'm a tenter. I love camping in a tent. I love roughing it. I'm not the kind of guy that, even if I could afford an RV, I'd probably just use the money for something else and then go camp in the tent, because that's what I love.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Were there any trips that stick out for you? Like that Colorado one, for example, or another one that's just like, man, this was the most amazing trip.
I was about probably 7 or 8 years old when we first went out west. And the only vivid memories I have is, we did go twice because we went again with my stepfather. And that was when I was a teenager. Memories of fishing by the Grand Tetons, and they have a huge lake out there by the Grand Tetons. and we were bass fishing. We caught about, like, it was my stepdad and my brother and I. It was the best fishing day I've ever had in my entire life. We caught about 20 or 30 fish, and we
Wow.
cleaned them all. And no, yeah, they were all the smaller panfish, you know. And but that's good. That's my favorite eating anyway. Being from Florida, I love bass fishing and sunfish. I love panfish. That's my favorite thing. And I fishing and just seeing the grand teeth in the background. It was so beautiful. To the conclusion, I lived with my mother the last 12 years of her life, and the last 5 years or so, she and I went on a bunch of vacations. I guess you could say it was kind of her bucket list stuff that she wanted to do, you know. So, you know,
Nice.
and one of our trips, we came up to Wisconsin to visit my son and his fiance and my 2 granddaughters. And then we headed out west from there through Minnesota and South Dakota out to Wyoming and then Colorado. And then from Colorado, we went down through Texas, western Texas by El Paso. And then we headed back to Florida on Interstate 10. But while we were in Colorado, we went to Devil's Tower in Wyoming, and we stopped at my mom's favorite place because my mother and father, back when he was in the Air Force, back in the, I guess it would have been the late 60s, it would have been the early 70s, after Vietnam. They lived in, oh my goodness, I'm nervous, I can't think of the name. They lived in Cheyenne, Wyoming. And so we went to a couple of the national parks they have in the area there, the Medicine Bow National Park and a couple other ones. And I tell you, I separated from my mom for a while. I wanted to go hiking in the mountains by myself because she really couldn't do it at that point anymore. So I was just hiking the mountain. There was no trail. I was just hiking, had my backpack with some spare water and drinking a compass, and I was just hiking. And I just fell in love with words I can't use. There's no words to explain how I felt. And I knew that I wanted to spend my last years out by the mountains. And then my mother and I actually wanted to move out there. She actually wanted to sell her home and buy a big RV and sell her. She had a brand new Nissan, a small car, and she was going to sell her home and her car and buy a pickup truck and an RV. And we were going to just go from one place to another. But she didn't do it because my brother lived in Florida still, obviously. And she didn't want to leave him alone. So she never got to fulfill that dream of hers. That was the one thing she wanted. She really wanted to do that. She never got to. But now I'm doing it myself, actually buying land and going to live out there. And I'm sure I don't have my reading glasses on, so I can't really see, but I'm sure you can see the joy in my face right now. And the good Lord willing, my mom's up there looking down on me with the big old smile on her face. Thanks to you, my dream is coming true. You get, there's people out there like you that are willing to give someone like me a chance, because I don't have really good credit. So I needed something that was affordable and with owner financing. And the Lord led me to to you. And
that means so much, Troy, and just really touches my heart. I mean, this is why we do what we do, to hear from someone that this was their parents' dream and your dream, and for you to live it out, that's what it's all about. So thank you so much for sharing.
I don't know if I'm allowed to mention religious stuff, so if not, just let me know and I'll curtail that.
No, you're fine. No, you just be yourself.
Okay. Okay.
it's all good. I would say we'll try and keep the cussing out of here, but outside of
Oh,
that,
that you don't have to
it's
worry
it's all
about
fun games.
that. Yeah.
So Troy, I'm curious to know, with when what do you do for work? Are you retired? Are you still working?
Um, well, there's kind of a long story that I'll sum up as quickly as I can possibly with that. When I was living with my mom, I had, jobs here and there on and off, and when she passed, I was kind of in limbo. It was a huge
Mm,
crossroads in my life. And I went to live with my son. I came back up to Wisconsin for a while to live with my son, and I got a job. I was working as a stocker. I basically, in my life, I've been a truck driver, a stocker, stocking shelves for department stores at Walmart and stuff. Um, I joined the Carpenters Union straight out of high school. I did that for about 3 or 4 years. So I've had a lot of different types of jobs, but I ended up upsetting my son for reasons that I don't even understand, because I'm not going to get into the personal details,
yes.
but my son kicked me out. And so I hopped on the Greyhound bus and went back to Florida, and I bought a tent and I was living in the woods for a while. And
Wow.
through God's grace, I learned a lot about the meaning of life and what's really important and what's not important. I was humbled severely, as you may well imagine.
Mhm.
And eventually, God led me I wouldn't go to the homeless shelters, because the homeless shelters are, for lack of a better phrase, they're dens of iniquity. There's all types of illegal activity at them. So I avoided them.
Mhm, mhm.
Um, I eventually found one that was church based. And so I went to that one, and they helped me get back on my feet. I got a job, and I saved up enough money to get out of Florida, because I'm tired of the heat. They say if you
Yes.
can't stand the heat out of the kitchen, and I'd spent most of my life in Florida, I needed to experience some seasons. It was so depressing having Christmas, and you go outside wearing some shorts, and it's hot outside. So I came back to Wisconsin. I came back here knowing that it wasn't going to be forever, that it was just going to be until I figured out where I wanted to go.
Mm.
And so I got a job, and I screwed things up, and I was off my medication. I'm supposed to be taking antidepressants and anti-anxiety. And this is tying with the job. Trust me, we're getting there real soon. I had a real decent job. The Lord blessed me with it was a temp job. Up here in Kenosha, it's all temp jobs. You go through temporary agencies, and they send you out to jobs. Because there's a lot of factories and stuff here, and it's more convenient for them to use the temp services. And so I ended up at a homeless shelter here in Kenosha. But they set me up in an apartment, and I finally started taking care of my old business, and I finally did my tax returns for the first time in several years. And in doing so, I got the
Stimulus money?
COVID. Yeah, I got that. I got all that in one lump sum, and that's what I used to pay the down payment. So for the piece of land. And so
Wonderful.
I'm 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 gonna start going to work this week, actually, through a temp agency. It's a decent pay, and I'll be making plenty of money to pay my rent and my lot payment to you. And so it's a plastic factory. There's a lot of cornfields up here, and
Uh-huh.
apparently they use corn as what's used to make plastic. So there are a lot of plastic to make plastic containers, any type of plastic container they're made, and they're made where in this part of the country where all the corn is from.
Oh
So
yeah,
I'll
there's
be
so much of
making,
it. So
like
much of it.
Nebraska, Wisconsin, maybe even
Illinois.
southern
Yep.
Minnesota, probably.
Yep. Yep.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
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 that's what I'll be doing here.
well, that's great, Troy. And I believe firmly in trying to give people second chances. And
Yeah. Whew.
yeah, we all make mistakes in life, and
Yeah.
to get another chance, I think all of us want that. And so I certainly hope that you can continue to stay on your feet. In the meantime, when we look at Colorado, there's a lot of different lands, a lot of different things you could look at. I'm
Right.
curious to know, you bought this particular property in southern Colorado in Costilla County.
Yeah.
What did you like about that area? Why that property in that area?
Well, I'm an amateur astronomer. I have a telescope. It's my pride and joy. It's what I love.
Mm,
Um, and that area of Colorado, the San Luis Valley, it's high desert, which means it's at a high elevation and it's desert. And those two things are fantastic for astronomy. The higher you are up above sea level, the less of Earth's atmosphere is in the sky before you reach the outer space, right? So the higher up you are, the clearer of a view you'll get of what you're looking at through the telescope. And also moisture in the air, the humidity blurs everything through the telescope. So when I was in Florida, when I look at stuff, it was never a really crystal clear view. Whereas now that I'm in Wisconsin, where there's a little less humidity, I'm noticing a slightly cleaner view. And when I get out to Blanca, Colorado, I can only imagine how amazing it's going to be with the clear views. Also, where I'm at, I have a light pollution app for my phone, and I check the area where my land is, and where I was at in Florida and here in Kenosha, purple is horrible. Purple is the worst light pollution there can be. And then it goes to red, orange, yellow, green, blue. And blue, the yellow, green, and blue means there's not too much light pollution. And the orange, red, and purple means there's just way too much light pollution. Well, where I'm at right now, it's like in the reds and oranges. Where I checked where my land is, it's right on the edge of blue and white. And white means no light pollution at all. So it's the perfect trifecta of high elevation, the desert dry air, and no light pollution. So It's just perfect for astronomy. It is just perfect. And also, me being an avid hiker and camper, obviously I have a mountain range about 5 to 10 miles to the north, and I have another one about the same distance to the east.
Yeah.
So when I stand on my front porch and look outside, I have just the most beautiful scenery that I could ever imagine. And so there are several reasons why that land is just perfect for me. It's just,
I love it.
It really is just perfect for me.
So I could totally see that. I've never thought about that before as one of the reasons that someone might be interested, but that makes total sense, just to be out and in an area where there's not a lot of people, obviously not a lot of light. The higher elevation certainly makes sense. I've never heard that before, nor the humidity. So those are all really interesting things that I didn't think about as a reason that someone might want property.
Well, 10 years ago, I never thought about that either. It's the last thing on your mind. What do you care about that? That's When my mother and I went on that vacation, I brought my telescope. And actually, I had another one. Now I have a new one because I ended up having to sell that one. I needed the money. I had to sell. Actually, I gave that. I can't lie. I actually gave that one to my son because I brought it up north and I left it with him so he could teach his daughters, so they could use it, so they'd be interested in astronomy, because it's a proven fact that children that are into science have a higher percentage going to college. And so I figured I just, rather than try to lug that with, I mean, it was 4 feet long. It was we weighed, with the mount, it weighed 50 pounds. I couldn't bring it with, and rather than sell it, I just said, even though my son is mad at me, I said, just keep the telescope. Please keep it and let your daughters use it, teach them how to use it. So hopefully my granddaughters are using it. I don't talk to them as often as I would like.
What a great gift. What a great gift for the grandkids.
Yeah.
And maybe one day you'll take them out there and they could do the stargazing.
Yeah. I'll never forget Madeline is the older one. Olivia, that I had a telescope with for the vacation, she was still a baby sitting in a carrier most of the time. But Madeline was I guess she was about 2 years old, and I remember showing her Saturn through the telescope, and I remember I had her on my lap, on my knee. I said, you might have to move around because your eye has to be lined up with the eyepiece in order to see anything, Yes. And I remember I'll never forget the moment when she went, oh, I see it, because she had to look for about 10 or 15 seconds. I'll never forget the first time where she gasped for air, and it was like, yeah, you see it. I said, isn't it beautiful? And she was 2 years old looking at Saturn through her grandpa's telescope.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah, that was definitely pretty cool. Yeah. But I brought my telescope on a vacation, and I got to use it when I was out there a few times, and it was amazing. So.
That's awesome, Troy. Well, I'm curious to know, like, as you saw that area, as like, oh, this is a great property for me. What was the process like for people that have never bought land before, maybe never dealt with us? What would you tell them about the process and what it was like?
Well, for me, it was about finding land that was owner financed. And obviously I honestly, Dennis, I've spent 100 hours or more on my phone Googling what to do, how to find the land. So I would just recommend Googling, what you're interested. You got, find the type of land you're looking for, whether it's the size, what part of the country you're looking for. What I did was I started out with Texas and Alaska. I wasn't sure, Texas, Alaska. And I found out, and I was thinking, at first I was thinking, how am I going to pay for land? What am I going to do? But then eventually, after doing it for a while, I realized that some of them said owner financing. And so I checked into that, I clicked on that, and it turns out, sure, some owners are willing to finance the people. So then I only started checking land that offered the owner financing. And there are dozens of pieces of land in any area that are for sale. And so you really just have to find an area. Like for me, I wanted to be out away from the city, but I still wanted to be near enough to a city that has department stores and grocery stores and stuff like that. So I can go into town and get everything I need, and, make some friends there and stuff, And I just researched, as far as what are the building codes for the area. You're going to want to Google building codes for that particular county, so you know what you're able to build. If you're, like for me, mobile homes was one of the things I was thinking about. Most places anymore in Florida or Colorado, they have to be pretty new. You can't have a really old mobile home, stuff
Yes.
like
Yes.
that. Excuse me. That way you can find out the square footage you have to have. There's a minimum square footage. Like for the area I'm going to be at, there's no electricity, so I'll be using mostly solar and then part propane to back it
Mm-hmm.
up. And like the water connections and stuff, there's going to be places where there are water connections, and there's going to be places where you might have to dig a well, and there's places like you can have water delivered to you where you buy a large cistern. You either have it above ground or below ground. And if it's year round, you want it to go down so it doesn't freeze, depending on what part of the country you're at.
Those are all great things, Troy. Great things for people to think about. Just to reiterate that, you check the county codes. You want to be able to have a mobile home. You wanted to make sure that you could, and then, well, what kind of mobile home? You did some really good research ahead of time to really know what that was like, what you can and can't do. So you really did your homework. So congratulations to you, on really thinking it through.
I didn't want to buy a piece of land and then find out, gee whiz, I can't even afford to live there. I have to have a certain house, or I have to have this. There are the homeowners associations, the HOAs. I didn't want to live in an area that had the homeowners association, because I wanted to be able to build my home the way I want to build it, not where everybody has to have certain roof, certain quality roofs, or they're like, in some places you're not allowed to have a pickup truck. I mean, their homeowner associations are very particular, and I don't want a cookie cutter neighborhood. I want to live in a place where I can just do whatever I want with my land. And so that was another reason I chose the piece of land I bought. And I plan. I've settled down. I'm pretty sure I'm going to use cinder blocks. I'm going to build it myself. I'm planning on moving out there, probably buying a small used RV, and I can live there for 6 months I can vacation there for 6 months out of the year in the RV, and with the permit, as long as I have the water supply and the septic. Well, I have to have the septic. The water supply is on me. That's not a part of the permit.
Right.
And then once I decide to start building, then I have a 2-year period where I have to actually live in the camper while building my home. And I'm just I'll move out there, move into my camper, and get a job in a town over, and just as I can afford them, and start building my home. And I've decided on using cinder blocks. I'll have 2.5 years to build it, because I'm going to use the first 6 months of the camping permit, and then when that expires, then I'll get the building permit, and then I'll have 2 years from that point on. So it'll give me 2.5 years to earn up enough money. And I've already spent dozens, if not 100 or more hours on the materials I'm going to need and how much it's all going to cost me. So I'm quite confident that once I move on to the land, that I'll be able to afford all the materials and tools and everything. And in 2.5 years or less, I'll have a home that's built. The land will be paid for. Obviously, my home will be paid for.
Yeah.
And solar electricity. I'll need a little bit of money for the propane, to refill the propane tanks, whenever that's necessary. But holy smokes, I mean, that should be any American's dream. That's why you, if you're not born in America, that's why you come to America, so you can make your dreams happen, and you made that possible for me. So that's really cool.
Thank you so much, Troy. And I believe were you working with Christy? Is that who on the team that you were working with to do that? How did it go with Christy? Was it a good experience? Tell me about working with her.
You never know who you're going to meet, and you never know who you're going to end up doing business with, whether it's a doctor appointment or going to your local grocery store. And Christy is fantastic. She is fantastic. She's very upbeat and very positive thinker. She's super polite. She is super polite. And with me being new to this, I was worried about, people, whether or not the people I was going to deal with being patient or not. And she's just super patient, and she's a whiz. Every question I've had, she's been able to answer without even thinking about it. She's real. She's to anybody out there. You definitely want to deal with this company. Dennis has been super polite. It sounds like a commercial, I know, but I'm just super grateful that the Lord steered me to your company to do business with you. You and Christy both have been super patient and just real pleasant to work with.
Well, thank you, Troy. Well, it's a pleasure working with you too, and it's so great to get to know your story. And as you get to building, you're gonna have to send me pictures of your finished place once you're all done. I'd love to see it.
Yeah, I don't have a lot of family, so whenever milestones, I have very few people to share stuff with. So you rest assured, I'll be sending you pictures.
All right, Troy. I'll look forward to it, sir. Well, any closing thoughts you want to leave with us? As maybe some people are just really skeptical. Is this for real? What would you leave us with as kind of a closing thought?
Yeah. It's so hard to earn money. Money is such big security with
Uh-oh. Troy, you still there?
Yes.
It's you're cutting out on me, sir. But that's okay. No worries. All right, my friends. Well, it was a pleasure having Troy on with us. I think he was having some sort of connection issue as we were speaking. So we'll call this it for the day. And certainly, you hear someone like Troy, and gosh, it just makes my day to know that we're able to help in these situations where someone's gone through stuff in life, and they've in some cases hit rock bottom. And what a blessing for us to be able to be there and say, you know what, we're going to give you this chance. And smart guy, and obviously got a good head on his shoulders, and I'm looking forward to working with him. And if you'd like to work with us, please feel free to reach out. Christy is doing a wonderful job, and certainly will take care of you as well. For Generation Family Properties and the Land Stories podcast, this is Dave Deniston. Thank you, my friend, so much for listening. Reach out again soon. Take care. Bye-bye.